Magandang araw. Here is our video discussion of module number 20 for bond 026. Our lesson title, Essential Requisites of Contracts, Consent, Object, and Cost, Part 2. So these are our lesson objectives. At the end of this module, you can explain the concept of object of contract. Second, state the requisites of things as object of contract. And third, define cost and explain the requisites of cost. So let's talk about the productivity tip for today. Sabi rito, it's easy to procrastinate on work that you find difficult or boring. This is why on a daily basis, it makes sense to tackle your harder subjects first while your mind is still fresh. Record your deadlines and prioritize your work. Happy learning. Alam mo, this is easier said than done. Pero ganun pa man, doable siya. Kaya kahit gaano man kahirap, subukan niyo yung 21-day challenge na talagang susundin niyo yung schedule niyo. Ayan. Let's move on to our lesson preview or review. You have learned from our previous module the three essential requisites or elements of contract, namely consent, object, cost, or consideration. Last module nga, pinag-usapan natin yung consent. So, look around you. Everything that you see can be considered as object. However, not every object can be a valid subject matter of a contract. Remember that there are also requisites to be observed so that things may be considered as valid object of a contract. We have already discussed matters relating to consent. So now, let us learn more about the other two elements of a valid contract. So please pause this for a while and answer the what I know chart. Moving on to our main lesson. Sabi nga, look around, no? Ano ba yung mga nakikita nyo sa inyong paligid? Lahat yan ay object. However, hindi porket lahat yan ay object ay ibig nang sabihin, pwede na siyang maging subject or object ng contract. Okay, meron kasing mga object na hindi pwedeng maging object ng contract. Pag-usapan natin. These are the things you need to put in mind about the object of contracts. First, the object of the contract is the subject matter of the contract. So, pareho lang yung object, pareho lang yung subject. Yan. Next, the object may be things, it could be rights, or it could be services. Third, future things may be the object of a contract. An example for this would be the crops next season by a farmer. But future inheritance may not be an object of a contract of sale except in cases provided by law. Future things, ito yung mga tinanim pa lang ngayon, yung palay, pero next month pa aanihin. O kaya, hindi pa tinatanim, pero dahil yun naman talaga yung palagi ang ginagawa ng farmer na yun, no? O pwede na niyang maging object, say, contract of sale, no? Pwede nang maging object ng contract of sale, yung kanyang aanihin pa lang ng mga palay. However, yung future inheritance, please keep that in your mind na yung future inheritance may not be an object of contract of sale. Ayan. All services which are not contrary to law, morals, good customs, public order, or public policy may likewise be the object of a contract. Ayan. So, yan yung mga dapat nating tandaan tungkol sa object. What are the requisites of object of contract? First, the object must be within the commerce of men. Ibig sabihin, kapag sinabi natin within the commerce of men, talagang ito yung mga normal na nasa merkado o mga po pwede talagang normal na bilhin o ibenta. Next, the object must not be impossible, whether legally or physically. Legally impossible. So, example nito, yung mga illegal drugs. Ayan, so hindi nyo yan po pwedeng gawing object ng contract of sale. Ma'am, di ba nagbebentahan naman po sila ng illegal drugs? Oo nga, kaya lang kapag nagka-onsehan sa bentahan, hindi ka naman po pwede pumunta sa korte para sabihin mo na hindi niya po ako binayaran. Hindi po niya dineliver yung illegal drugs na in-order ko. So, makukulong kayong dalawa. Kaya, isasama na siya sa legally impossible. Ayan. Physically impossible, halimbawa, benta mo yung moon, benta mo yung star, benta mo yung ulap, no? O kaya naman, object of contract, po pwede rin kasi na yung obligation to do, tapos may condition na ibibigay ko sa'yo itong lotion na to kapag ka, halimbawa, ano ba po pwede natin na imposible na kapag nakapunta ka sa moon, no? Malabo naman yan, how? Ayan. So, these are not valid object of contract. Ay, paano kung ano po ba ang magiging effect kapag yung mga impossible, whether legally or physically, impossible objects ay naging object ng contract of sale. Okay? The sale is void or inexistent. Again, void or inexistent. Void from the very beginning. Ayan. Yun yung term, may isa pang term doon, void ab initio. Yun nga yung void from the very beginning. Pwede rin void lang yung sagot. Pwede rin inexistent contract. Yun, pare-pareho lang na ibig sabihin yun. Kasi lagi niyong tatandaan kapag impossible yung contract, the contract is void. Ayan. So next, it must be in existence or capable of coming into existence, and it must be determinate or determinable without the need of a new contract between the parties. Determinate, ano ba yung determinate things? Specific things. So dapat daw, requisite ng object of a contract, at least ma-specify kung ano ba talaga yun. O kaya naman, determinable, yung kaya mong i-specify. Ayan. Let's talk about the cause of contracts. The cause is the essential or more proximate purpose which the contracting parties have in view at the time of entering into the contract. So in short, this is the reason why the parties entered into the contract with each other. Remember that contracts without cause or with unlawful cause produce no effect. So the statement of a false cause in contracts shall render the contract void. False cause, yung mga peke na cause. Bigyan ko kayo example. Bentahan ng lupa. Pinalabas nila nagbabentahan. Pero totoo, walang bayarang naganap. Ika lang nila yon. Ayan. Kumbaga, parang pinalalabas lang nila na merong bentahan na nangyari pero ang totoo walang cost or consideration na bigay. If that is the case, then the contract is void. Ma'am, sino ba gumagawa no? Nagbebentahan pero wala naman palang cost and consideration. Alam nyo kasi para makaiwas sa taxes. Ayan. Para makaiwas sa mas malaking tax na babayaran. Yun ang point natin. Yung pagpapasa kasi minsan ng mga ari-arian, yun, ginagawa nila yun. No? So, yan, i-discuss natin yan pwede sa taxation, no? Para makaiwas sa tax yun, or ano yung mga discarding ginagawa. Alam na illegal yun, ha? Ito nga, in fact, ang sabi rito, kapag false yung cause mo, hindi totoo, the contract is void. So, next, requisites of cause. The following are the requisites of cause. It must exist at the time the contract is entered into. It must be lawful. It must be true or real. Ano po sabi? Tatlo lang ba? O, yun. So, tatlo. Kailangan nag-exist, kailangan lawful, kailangan totoo. So, let us study the effect in the contract of the following scenario regarding cause. Absence of cause. Absence of cause means there is total lack of any valid consideration for the contract. If this is the case, then there is no valid contract. The contract is inexistent or void. Ayan. Absence of cause. Wala talagang cause. Ayan. Next. Failure of cause. Ano may failure of cause? It is a scenario wherein there is a failure to pay the agreed price after the execution of the contract. It does not mean that the contract is without cause or consideration, but rather, the buyer just failed to pay the price agreed upon. So the instance does not render the contract void. Failure Failure of cost, meaning to say, may cost talaga. Halimbawa, sinabi nila ang benta ng 100,000, hindi lang nakabayad. So if that's the case, masasabi ba natin agad na hindi valid yung contract? Di ba? Hindi naman. Kasi yung failure na magbayad ay hindi nagre-render ng contract na maging void. Ano ang magiging remedy ng seller kapag yung buyer hindi nagbayad? So, pwede siya na magsampa ng action for specific performance. Iko-compel niya sa korte na magbayad yung buyer o yung debtor. Ayan. So, again, failure of cost. It does not render the contract void. The contract is still valid. Okay, next. Illegality of cost. Ibibigay ko sa iyo to kapag ka ni-rape mo si ganyan. O diba, illegal. Illegal yung kapalit. So this is a scenario wherein there is a cause but the same is unlawful or illegal. Remember that the contract with unlawful cause are also in existence or void. Okay? So, next, falsity of cause. This is where the contract states a valid consideration but the same is not true. A false cost is a simulated cost. Bentahan 1,000,000, ni-reflect 500,000 para makatipid sa capital gains tax. Ayan. So, if that's the case, simulated, ano sabi rito? Just like when a contract states that the consideration is 500,000, but in fact, the actual consideration is another amount. So remember, if the cost is false, the contract is void. So kapag peke, void. Ayan. Next. Lisyon or inadequacy of price. Kung sabi natin lisyon, para bang pwede namang ibenta yung isang bagay ng 1,000,000? Binenta 750,000 lang. Ibinenta 500,000 lang. Palugi. So pagka ganon, inadequate yung price, ano kaya effect nun sa contract? Depende. Depende yan. Pero pag-usapan muna natin yung lisyon. Lisyon is any damage caused by the fact that the price is unjust or inadequate. The truth is, just because there is lisyon does not mean that the contract is not valid. Ano sabi rito? Hindi porket may lisyon o inadequate yung presyo, ibig sabihin na agad-agad hindi na valid yung contract. Yun yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kasi na depende. So, tuloy natin. There is nothing wrong if the seller would want to sell an object for a bargain. However, ayan, dito na papasok yung it depends ko. However, if the lisyon is accompanied by fraud, mistake, or undue influence, or any other cases specified by law, then the lisyon or inadequacy in price will invalidate the contract. Will invalidate. Ibig sabihin valid, i-invalidate lang. Ayan. So, anong point natin dito? Kapag inadequate yung price, the contract is voidable, valid until annulled by a competent court. Mabigyan ko kayo ng example. Kailan ba nagkakaroon ng ganito? So, halimbawa, yung tao nagmamadali na mag-a-abroad. For some reason, talagang willing naman talaga siya at alam niyang palugi ang benta ng kanyang mga ari-arian dito sa Pilipinas. Pero binenta pa rin niya, kahit mababang halaga. So, is the contract valid or voidable? The answer is no. Pero kapag halimbawa may lokohan na nangyari, okay, halimbawa, kinumbinsi ka na ibenta mo yung gamit mo sa halagang ganun kasi ganun lang yung merkato, ikaw naman ay naniwala, no? So, ayan, basta may lokohan na nangyari, may mistake, at saka, halimbawa, may undue influence, tinakot, ganyan, no? Tinakot ka or may violence na nangyayari, no? Nanakit na, ayan. Napilitan kang ibenta ng mas mababang halaga, then therefore it is voidable. Ayan. So, there's nothing to comment in the comment section down below for a change. So just please answer the activities in this particular module. Thank you all and see you all next discussion.